guys, welcome back to another video, man. Today we will be doing the Las Vegas Raiders 2025 to 2026 record predictions. Now, last season the Raiders finished with a record of 4-13, went fourth in the AFC West, and missed the playoffs. We're gonna see if they can bounce back and they win more than 4 games, less than 4 games, or are they gonna win 4 games again? Let's obviously start with their acquisitions and their losses. Starting with their losses, they lost Gardner Minshew to the Chiefs, Andre James to the Chargers, Marcus Epps to the Patriots, Robert Spillane to the Patriots, Harrison Bryant to the Eagles. They lost John Jenkins to the Ravens, Alexander Madison to the Dolphins, Trayvon Mulry to the Panthers, Devon Diablo to the Falcons, K'Lavon Chaisson to the Patriots, Terrace Marshall Jr. to the Eagles, Amari Burney to the Titans, Desmond Ridder to the Bengals, Nate Hobbs to the Packers, Janarius Robinson to the Chiefs, Kanai Mwaga to the Chargers, Matthew Butler to the Dolphins, and that's it for their losses. Guys that they brought in to replace some of those guys, they brought in Geno Smith from the Seahawks, Alex Kappa from the Bengals, Jermaine Pratt from the Bengals, Raheem Mostert from the Dolphins, Jeremy Chin from the Commanders, Alandon Roberts from the Steelers, Eric Stokes from the Packers, Likai Fotu from the Jets, Ian Thomas from the Panthers, Devin White from the Texans, Lonnie Johnson Jr. from the Panthers, Colin Johnson from the Bears, and Quadir Ismail from the Ravens. So that's all of their acquisitions and their losses. And now if we look at the Raiders draft. Alright, let's see. That's on here. Okay, it's not where it usually is. Alright, so I gotta go into the ESPN app. Alright, but yeah, now the Las Vegas Raiders draft, they had some picks. Round 1, pick 6, they infamously took Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. He was a Heisman finalist, so, that has to be a good pick for the Raiders this season, maybe. I don't know. Round 2, pick 58, via the Houston Texans, they took Jack Beck, wide receiver from TCU. Round 3, pick 68, they took Darian Porter, cornerback from Iowa State. Round 3, pick 98, via the Miami Dolphins, they took Caleb Rogers, guard from Texas Tech. Round 3, pick 99, via the Houston Texans, they took Charles Grant, offensive tackle from Williams and Mary. Round 4, pick 108, they took Dante Thornton Jr., wide receiver from Tennessee. Round 4, pick 135, they took Tonka Hemingway, defensive tackle from South Carolina. Round 6, pick 180, they took J.J. Pegues, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. I think that's how you say it. Round 6, pick 213, they took Tommy Mellett, quarterback from Montana State. Round 6, pick 215, they took Cam Miller, quarterback from North Dakota State. And round 7, pick 222, they took Cody Lindenberg, linebacker from Minnesota. Did they really take 2 quarterbacks back to back? Or is this, I don't know, that's crazy. You take a quarterback and then 2 picks later, you take another quarterback. It's kind of hard to believe, but that's what this thing says. Alright, well that brings us to the record predictions. Let's see how the Raiders improve or regress. Alright, so first I gotta do my old find them first. But that shouldn't be too hard. But yeah, Las Vegas Raiders, man. And obviously, they also brought in Pete Carroll, and Geno Smith used to work with Pete Carroll back in Seattle. They worked. Geno Smith was the starter for Seattle for Pete Carroll's last year, but was there for his last couple of years. All right, Raiders. Here we go. Week 1. Well, hold on. Also, obviously, since the Raiders missed the playoffs, can they make the playoffs for the first time since 2021? Or will it be the 4th straight year of no playoffs? About to find out. Week 1, Raiders are at the New England Patriots, where I do have the Raiders game to win in Week 1. Patriots just have a younger team, and they have a more energetic team, so I think they're going to win. Week 2, Raiders host the Los Angeles Chargers, where I got the Raiders winning. No, it's a divisional game. Anything can happen. But I think these two teams are kind of the same. You know, the Chargers, they don't really have any receivers that can catch football, so give me Raiders. Other than Lyle McConkey, but give me Raiders. Week 3, the Raiders will be at the Washington Commanders, where I got the Raiders pulling off a little upset, man. Look, Max Crosby, I think, can single-handedly win you games sometimes, and I think this is going to be one of those games. The Commanders, they got a solid O-line, but I think the Raiders' defensive line with Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, I think that's going to be good enough to beat the Commanders. Week 4, Raiders host the Chicago Bears, so give me the Raiders to win. I just think, the Raiders have a more talented roster than Chicago, so therefore I think the Raiders win. Week 5, Raiders are at the Indianapolis Colts, or have the Raiders get into the win again. The Colts, they're a mediocre team, so I think the Raiders get the win. Week 6, Raiders host the Tennessee Titans, where I got the Raiders winning. Geno Smith against Cam Ward, you can make the argument for Cam Ward being better long-term. Well, that's not really an argument. He will be better long-term than Geno Smith will be for the Raiders. But we're talking about this season where I think the Raiders are built better than the Titans. But Week 7, Raiders are at the Kansas City Chiefs, where I do have the Chiefs winning. The Raiders, I think they're a good team, but they're not good enough to beat the Chiefs. Week 8 is the Raiders bye week. Week 9, Raiders host the Jacksonville Jaguars, where I got the Raiders pulling it out. It's going to be a fun game, but I think the Raiders get the edge over Jacksonville. Week 10, Raiders are at the Denver Broncos, where I got the Broncos getting the win. The Raiders kind of owned Denver when Josh McDaniels, of all people, was the coach of the Raiders. So I think now it's the Broncos' era to beat the Raiders. Week 11, Raiders host the Dallas Cowboys. Give me the Raiders to win. The Cowboys are like the Colts. They're just there. Week 12, Raiders host the Cleveland Browns, where I got the Browns pulling it out. And then Week 13, Raiders will be at the Los Angeles Chargers, where I got the Chargers winning. The Chargers lost to the Raiders Week 2, but they got the win here in Week 13 at home. Week 14, Raiders host the Denver Broncos. Give me the Raiders to at least split with the Denver Broncos. Week 15, Raiders are at the Philadelphia Eagles, where I do got the Eagles win. The Eagles, they're just too talented for the Raiders to overcome. So I got the Eagles winning. Week 16, Raiders are at the Houston Texans, where I do have the Raiders winning, man. I think the Texans are going to struggle this season, so give me the Raiders to win. Week 17, Raiders host the New York Giants, where I got the Giants winning. Look, it's a battle of two QBs that their better days are behind them, but guys that can still get wins in the NFL. And then Week 18 to end the season, the Raiders host the Kansas City Chiefs, where actually I do got the Raiders winning Week 18, because by this time, I think the Chiefs would have already clinched this division, so they're probably going to be putting them in their backups. So give me the Raiders to beat the Chiefs in Week 18 at home. So I got the Las Vegas Raiders finishing with a record of 10-7, getting the 6th seed in the AFC. So Raider fans, good news for y'all. Y'all make the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. You make the playoffs for the first time since 2021. So y'all satisfied with 10-7? Y'all also go second in your division. So that's nice. Anyways, you can always find me at Hurricane Mike. Kyle Phelps, give me your Who Dat Sports Podcast. Wait, hold on. Before I forget, do y'all think the Raiders are going to win more than 10 games, less than 10 games, or do y'all also think they're going to win 10 games? Let me know in the comments below. You can always find me at Hurricane Mike. Kyle Phelps, and give me your Who Dat Sports Podcast. And I'm leaving you as always with the Who Dat, and don't be a Falcons fan.